Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 341. Hope you guys have had a good week so far. Hope you had a good Labor Day weekend. We're back on the mic and a little bit at a crossroads today because I didn't really get to everything that I wanted to in the last podcast. In the last podcast, we were talking about the hacking of the DNC in 2016 and the accusation that Russia was behind the hacking of the DNC. Not only the hacking and the stealing and taking of the correspondence, the emails, the documents from the DNC, transmitting that to WikiLeaks and WikiLeaks publishing that. I didn't get to everything in the last podcast and ran out of time, and I wanted to really go further into that CNN clip that I played a little bit of at the end of last podcast. And I think that what I'm going to do, that's the crossroads that I was at. I think that I want to start today's podcast by finishing up playing, that CNN clip and explaining some things and finishing up from that last podcast. And then I want to get into something else. And the crossroads is that if I do this, if I go back and cover the things that I didn't get into in the last podcast and explain, then I'm not going to have enough time today to get into everything that I want to get to as we transition from this hacking scandal and this hacking story into what's going on in Europe right now, particularly in the UK. So, but I'm going to do that, and we'll just get to as much as we can, and we'll see if we'll pick it up again on Monday. But I do want to pick up the CNN clip and explain some things about this hacking story. Now, if you remember in the last podcast, I played the clips of Julian Assange saying that Russia was not their source, and Julian Assange alluded to the fact that Seth Rich, the DNC, the 27-year-old guy who worked for the DNC, who was murdered in DC in July of 2016. Julian Assange alludes to the fact that Seth Rich was his source, and we talked about Donna Brazile dedicating her book Hacks to Seth Rich, and then we played the clip of John Solomon saying that CrowdStrike had testified that they had proof that Russia did hack the DNC, but they didn't have any evidence that they had downloaded anything and taken anything, that they had just hacked the DNC and they were looking around through the DNC network. And in the CNN clip that we finished last podcast with, which we're going to listen to more today, it lays it out. It lays out that the FBI monitored Russian hackers, which they believe were Russian hackers, hacking into the DNC in September of 2015, a full year before the WikiLeaks dump. This was at a period of time where the Democratic primary, the Republican primary, hadn't even started yet. 2015, the FBI noticed that a Russian IP address was hacking into one of our two major political parties' systems, the Democrat National Committee's network and their system. The FBI monitored this Russian IP address hacking into the DNC, and they failed to warn the DNC. They tracked these Russians for months and failed to warn the DNC adequately that their network and their system had been penetrated by a foreign actor. So we're going to get back into that a little bit today. I want to explain a little bit more. And like I said, we're going to wrap this up, and then I want to transition to what's going on in the UK right now. All right, so let's listen to again, the CNN clip from this series they did called The Russian Connection. And in this first clip, you're going to see the CNN reporter interviewing James Clapper, who was the head of the Office of Director of National Intelligence. He was the Director of National Intelligence under Obama at this time. Let's take a listen.
Can you say when you were first made aware that Russia or some country was attempting to infiltrate U.S. political organizations?
Sometime over the summer of 2015.
James Clapper.
Sometime over the summer of 2015, the head of national intelligence became aware that Russians were hacking into one of our two major parties' networks, the DNC networks. 2015, a full year before the summer of 2016, the Director of National Intelligence was aware.
Local organizations.
Sometime over the summer of 2015.
James Clapper was then the Director of National Intelligence, the nation's senior-most intelligence official.
At that first warning, was it clear to you how serious it would become?
No, I don't think it was.
It wasn't serious to the Director of National Intelligence. It wasn't serious issue for the Director of National Intelligence when he learned in the summer of 2015 that Russians were hacking into one of our two major political parties' networks in the summer of 2015. He did not see it as a serious problem. The Director of National Intelligence.
First warning, was it clear to you how serious it would become?
No, I don't think it was, because obviously the Russians have us as a primary, maybe the primary intelligence target anyway.
The first quiet warning came September 2015.
This first quiet warning came September 2015. 2015, quiet warning, all right?
The first quiet warning came September 2015, when a mid-level FBI agent notified the Democratic National Committee that Russian hackers had compromised at least one DNC computer.
They left a phone message at the help desk of the DNC. They didn't treat it with the kind of seriousness I think that it deserved.
So the FBI agent, this is an FBI agent. They say in the CNN report that he was mid-level. It didn't matter if he was mid-level, lower level, upper level. He's an FBI agent. He notices a foreign actor hacking into, he says computer here. You don't hack into the computer. You hack into the network. You hack into the server. So the FBI, this mid-level FBI agent, notices the Russians hacking into one of our two major political parties' networks. And then he reaches out to the DNC and over the phone and leaves a message with the IT department, okay?
They left a phone message at the help desk of the DNC.
They left a phone message at the help desk of the DNC.
Hackers had compromised at least one DNC computer.
They left a phone message at the help desk of the DNC. They didn't treat it with the kind of seriousness I think that it deserved.
That was the FBI's first direct contact with the DNC. A message left for a low-level computer technician.
Low level. They have to tell you that the FBI agent is mid-level, and then the computer technician at the DNC who he left the message with is low level. They have to explain that to you because they have to explain how none of this information gets to the higher levels. The mid-level FBI agent that notices the Russians hacking into the DNC network, he's mid-level. It doesn't get up to the high level of Comey and McCabe and Strzok. It doesn't get up there. And then he leaves, he's mid-level, the FBI agent who notices the Russians hacking into the DNC network. And then he calls the DNC on the phone and leaves a message with the low-level tech. Now, I showed you this map of Washington, D.C. In our last podcast and showed you that the J. Edgar Hoover building is here. The DNC is here. It's a 7-minute drive. You go down this street, Pennsylvania Avenue, turn down here, turn down here, turn down here. 7-minute drive to the DNC. This mid-level FBI agent who called the DNC and left a message with this low-level IT person to tell him that the Russians were hacking into your network. You need to do something to protect your network. He never got into his car or even walked. Could have walked to the DNC and told them, hey, you guys need to lock down your network. You need to protect yourself because we're noticing an IP address that is connected with the Russians hacking into your system. That's not what happened. That's not what happened.
With the DNC, a message left for a low-level computer technician who did not return the FBI's call.
So the low-level computer technician, he left the message. The FBI agent left the message to the low-level computer technician saying that the Russians have hacked. This is in 2015. 2015, people. This is a full year before any of the disclosures from WikiLeaks, before you even get into, before Hillary Clinton is the Democrat nominee, before Trump is the Republican nominee. 2015, this is going on. The mid-level FBI agent notices the Russians hacking into the DNC, calls to the DNC and leaves a message for a low-level IT person who doesn't return the call to the FBI and doesn't think it's a big deal.
Level computer technician who did not return the FBI's call.
The Bureau's, it's a busy place. They got a lot
to
do, but I suspect if they had it to do over again, they probably would try to do it differently in retrospect.
The DNC technician, an outsourced employee.
He's outsourced. He's outsourced. It's more information you need. He's not only low level, he's outsourced. The DNC technician who the FBI leaves the message with, the FBI doesn't go over to the DNC, 7-minute drive, doesn't, attempt to talk to the higher level people at the DNC, like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, like Donna Brazile, like any of those people. He leaves a phone message for the low level outsourced computer technician at the DNC, and this guy doesn't return the call.
I suspect if they had it to do over again, they probably would try to do it differently in retrospect.
The DNC technician, an outsourced employee, did scan the system networks, but found nothing. And the IT department apparently did not share the FBI's concerns with more senior DNC staff.
So the IT department didn't share the FBI's concerns with the higher, more senior DNC staff, Donna Brazile, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the people that were running the DNC. So it never got up to them. And the FBI didn't go over to talk to them. They didn't see it. Like Clapper says, when we noticed the Russians hacking into the DNC in 2015, we didn't even think it was serious, is what the head of the National Intelligence, James Clapper, says in this segment from CNN, that I didn't even see it as a serious issue.
Did scan the system networks, but found nothing. And the IT department apparently did not share the FBI's concerns with more senior DNC staff. The breach would prove to be enormous, hackers gaining access to countless emails, communications, and documents.
I can imagine them sitting down a couple weeks later and saying, well, that went pretty well. Look, we're in.
And as the campaign for president was already well underway. For weeks, the FBI kept calling the same computer help desk number at the DNC.
For weeks, the FBI kept calling. For weeks. It's a 7-minute drive, people. They could have walked over there. For weeks, the FBI kept calling the same low-level, outsourced computer technician, leaving messages with the same guy, the same low-level guy, never gets up to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, never gets up to Donna Brazile. And for weeks, while they're tracking the Russians in the DNC network, one of our two major political parties, as we're going into an election year, people, how could you believe this? That's why it's important that I went back and I made this stuff clear, because I didn't make it clear, ran out of time in the last podcast. This is why I wanted to make this clear to you, that this story is absolutely fantastic. It is a fantastic story that they have contrived and that they are trying to sell us. And like I said in the last podcast, most Americans don't really understand this narrative that they have attempted to sell the American people. You would have to be brain dead to believe this, that for weeks, They kept calling the low-level outsourced IT technician that wasn't transmitting the information up to the higher levels at the DNC. The FBI didn't go over there and knock on the door and say, look, you guys need to lock down your network. He just kept calling the same low-level, mid-level outsourced technician while the Russians were hacking into their network.
Was already well underway. For weeks, the FBI kept calling the same computer help desk number at the DNC, never reaching out to DNC leaders and never making the short trip in person to DNC headquarters.
Never making the short trip in person. This is one of our two major political parties. We're getting ready to go into an election year. They didn't make the short trip, the 7-minute drive over to the DNC after weeks of trying to relay the message over by phone. Who would believe this?
Computer help desk number at the DNC, never reaching out to DNC leaders and never making the short trip in person to DNC headquarters.
Looking back, I think they would probably say, geez, we should have been a little bit more aggressive. But again, it's hard to predict where these things are going to end up in this.
Wow. Looking back, they would have probably been more aggressive, but it's hard to predict. This is crazy. So these are things that I just wanted to explain that I didn't get to in the last podcast, and I wanted to make it clear that, and going back to what John Solomon said in the clip that we played in the last podcast, that, yeah, the Russians hacked in, and they were looking around, and the FBI knew that they were looking around. There's no evidence that the Russians actually took anything and downloaded anything, and there's no evidence that the Russians were the source for the emails and documents that WikiLeaks eventually published. All right, so I just wanted to clear that up, and who knows, like I said, I believe that this is going to be, as we get wind down this year and get into next year, I believe that this is going to be a major story. The Russiagate story is going to be intensified, and you need this information to understand what is going on with this story and what happened. But now I want to get and transition into something else. I want to talk about what's happening in Europe, particularly in the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom is on the verge of civil war. The United Kingdom is a tinderbox right now, and it all deals with immigration, illegal immigrations. I'm going to relate it to what's going on here in the United States. And this is a problem throughout all of Europe, not only in the United Kingdom, but the United Kingdom is the ground zero for this problem. But this immigration problem is a huge problem throughout all of Europe, just like it's a huge problem here in the United States. And quite frankly, if Kamala Harris would have won the election last year, then what's happening in Europe, what happened in the first 3 years of the Biden administration with illegal immigration and leaving the borders wide open, it would be the same thing here in the United States. But I want to talk about what's happening in the UK, and I want to relate it to the United States. And hold on here. Get this right. All right, let's listen to this clip.
Civil unrest in the United Kingdom has reached a boiling point, and the situation is so dire that rumblings of civil war are being heard. Here are but a few examples of what's being said.
The people will feel they have no option other than to take action into their own hands rather than rely on political leaders who are doing nothing in their eyes. So yeah, I think there's every likelihood. I don't know what the time frame is, but I would go far as to predict not just civil unrest, but civil war in the UK.
The UK is falling apart. You don't need a think tank to tell you that, but that's exactly what a think tank has discovered. Whether you're supporting Palestine or the right to fly a flag, Britain is on the brink of explosion.
The last 3 or so months at least, the main topic that's dominated the UK discourse, get ready to drink chat, civil war. Now, we don't talk like this in our country. It's not a thing that we've really spoken about since, the 17th century. The Brits are quite shy and polite and reserved.
What level do you think this is at this point?
It's at a very severe level. And I believe unless there's change in the next few years, it could become irreversible. We've got a major problem with mass immigration. We've got a major problem with deindustrialization, with stagnation, so people's incomes aren't going up. They're seeing their towns and villages change, their cities change. Things are getting worse, but we have a very powerful status quo, a very powerful establishment that doesn't want the radical change that our country needs.
Tim Dieppe, head of public policy at Christian Concern, joins us now from London. Tim, paint us a picture of what's happening in the UK.
Well, there's been a lot of concern about mass immigration, huge numbers of immigration from other countries coming to the UK, particularly illegal immigration. This is people coming in on small boats over the channel from France. There's been 50,000 people in the last 12 months that have come into the country that way. No real checks on who they are and what they're doing and where they're from, and often without any papers, all this kind of stuff.
And it sounds familiar.
What really annoyed people is that they're being put up in hotels for free, with free food and free expense money.
So this sounds familiar. This sounds very familiar. This is what was going on in the Biden administration. And as a matter of fact, more than any other issue that contributed to Kamala Harris losing the election last year, I believe it was this issue, and people being upset that we were putting migrants up in hotels and giving them debit cards. And while Americans, native-born Americans, are struggling with record high inflation that the Democrats had driven up to 9%. And while Americans are struggling to survive, they're witnessing immigrants coming in, the newcomers coming in, being put up in hotels and giving, free room and board and debit cards. So I believe that more than any other issues, and there are a lot of issues that led to Donald Trump being reelected last year, but I believe this was the number one issue. And this is the same thing that's happening in England right now that people are fed up with. They're fed up with the way we were fed up with last year that led to the reelection of Donald Trump. In England, they're fed up. Now, in England, they are protesting with a simple protest. They are protesting by putting up English flags, the Cross of St. George, the what's the other one called? The Union Jack flag, and they're putting these flags up all over England in protest of immigration, and these flags are becoming a big problem. Take a listen to this clip.
In the UK, a country not known for everyday displays of patriotism, there's a new wave of national flags being flown. Supporters say it's simply an act of pride, while critics warn it is a sign of the political winds being blown towards far-right nationalism. Elon Musk jumped into the debate, retweeting a viral video of the flag of Wales being raised, and writing, "People of the great nations of Britain and Ireland, rally now to save your beautiful countries. It's now or never. Fight, fight, fight. Soon, it will be too late." So here's what we know about the movement dubbed Operation Raise the Colors. In the United States, it's common to see the stars and stripes emblazoned on everything from sunglasses to bathing suits to McDonald's. Meanwhile, across the pond, the Union Jack is traditionally reserved for special occasions, such as royal, military, or sporting events. However, in Birmingham and beyond, the iconic flag is now everywhere, and increasingly, the red and white St. George's Cross too. The city reportedly was forced to remove flags from public property, calling them a safety or fire hazard.
Safety hazard. Putting up the flags, they're safety hazards.
Minutes outside of Birmingham, police are investigating a roundabout that was painted with the red and white cross. This comes as anti-immigrant sentiment spreads across the land. In 2020, it came to a head when the Brexit vote pulled the UK out of the EU, essentially closing its borders. This recent rush of patriotism seems to have started with the Wheelie Castle Warriors, a self-described group of proud Englishmen with a common goal to show Birmingham and the rest of the country of how proud we are of our history, freedoms, and achievements.
So,
a GoFundMe raising money for flags, flagpoles, and cable ties has raked in roughly $28,000 in US dollars.
So they're just simply putting up flags and waving flags to show their pride in their culture, showing pride in their heritage. And many people, left-wing people, just like here in the United States, it's no different than what's going on here in the United States. And I want to relate it to what's going on here in the United States because what we did last year in reelecting Donald Trump, and even in 2016, electing Donald Trump and Donald Trump's run in 2016 led to the Brexit movement. And that's why Donald Trump is a huge problem to what they call the liberal world order, the new world order, if you will, that he not only inspires the Americans to stand up and defend their country, he inspires the rest of the world. You're going to see what I'm talking about here in a moment, that Donald Trump and what we've done here in the United States, Donald Trump is pretty much, illegal immigration right now is at a 40-year low here in the United States. Donald Trump has completely shut down the border from the illegal immigration that we were having under the Biden administration. And again, it's at a 40-year low. He's going out and we're arresting people. Everyone knows, deporting people. Everyone knows what's going on here in the United States. And other countries are witnessing what's going on here in the United States, particularly in England. But England's not the only one. It's happening in Germany. It's happening all over the continent of Europe, where people are saying, we want that. We want what the Americans are doing. We want to, if Donald Trump's able to do that in America, why can't we do that here in England? Why can't we do this in Germany? And that's what's going on. So Donald Trump becomes an icon to inspire not only Americans, but inspire people in Europe and other countries that are experiencing the same problems. And it's hugely controversial. I want you to listen to this clip from Channel 4. They interview a few people, and I want you to listen to what these people say.
In some parts of England, everywhere you look, there are St George's and Union Jack flags. It's the ripple effect of what started as a movement in the Midlands. So, is this pride or prejudice? The Brickfields area of Worcester is covered in flags. Carla's part of a group putting them up.
It's all about bringing the communities together. It's about love, peace, unity. Nothing to do with racism, as people keep stating.
They're calling the flags racist, okay? They're calling the flags racist, and you're going to see that's not unique to England. It's happening here in the United States. They call the Stars and Stripes racist.
Unity. Nothing to do with racism, as people keep stating. But this has brought people out. Everyone's coming out, and a lot more people are voicing their opinions now, obviously about illegal immigration, undocumented males.
When you see all of these flags, all of these St George's flags around here, can you understand why some people might be a bit intimidated by that?
No.
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 Not at all?
No.
No.
My true belief is if you're in England, you should not be intimidated.
They're English flags.
You should not be insulted by the English flag.
The flag does have some connotations with fairly extremist views, and I think that's where...
Connotation to who? Who has this connotation? Liberals? Blockheads? I mean, come on. If you're offended by the English flag in England, then leave.
Be insulted by the English flag.
The flag does have some connotations with fairly extremist views, and I think that's where that comes from, that potential fear of it. Do you recognise that at all?
I understand what you're saying about it, but our flags haven't been put up in Worcester for anything to do with racism.
Well, some people might not know that. Do you see
Who
that?
cares?
They might not, but that's why we keep saying it on the page. I've done so many posts, anyone following, I've done it on my personal Facebook, on the page, the reasons behind why we're doing it. And I do understand why people might think it's racist.
I don't.
It's not.
The Reform UK leader of Worcestershire County Council says the flags can stay up. Other local authorities, though, have taken some down on grounds of safety. There are differing approaches and differing views too.
Do you think this is a good thing, these flags popping up in such big numbers?
Not really, but why has it got to this stage?
It's nice to see them up. It gives you a good feeling. At the end of the day, everybody's had enough of what's going on.
We've had enough.
Is it immigration?
Oh, I'm going to bring it up, but you did.
I'm not. He says, is it immigration? I'm not going to bring it up, but you did. Why isn't he bringing it up? Because they're arresting people. They're arresting people in England for speech, for talking about immigration in the wrong way. For a guy got arrested, and a comedian got arrested just last week, or earlier this week, for social media posts criticizing transgenders. And this is what's going on in Europe, where they don't have free speech. They're arresting people for speech. So he's like, I'm not going to say it, but you did. So yeah, it's immigration.
Oh, I'm going to bring it up, but you did. Yeah, we've had enough.
I think there is probably motives behind it from certain people that are wrong. I think if you're trying to enter the country illegally, it's not right. I think maybe we've opened the doors a little bit too much and we're offering a little bit too much. But at the end of the day, we're all human.
It just makes me uncomfortable. Nationalism in general.
It just makes me uncomfortable, nationalism in general. Now, when I watch this for the first time, they don't show you the woman who is saying this until they're going to go to the next clip, and then they show you who she is. But I immediately, when I heard someone say, it just makes me uncomfortable, nationalism makes me uncomfortable, I knew that this was going to be some liberal woman with short hair. She's going to have the look. They all have the look. And then lo and behold, take a look.
I'm not comfortable with. It reminds me of...
There she is. There she is. This is an epidemic of liberal women. They are the scourge of the earth. They are driving all of this in Europe, here in the United States, that these liberal, lonely, unattractive, bitter women are driving all of this. They're driving all of this.
In general, I'm not comfortable with. It reminds me of Germany before the First World War.
It reminds me of Germany before the First World War. Where have I heard that before?
It reminds me of Germany before the First World War.
Not a problem. Personally, it's not a problem for me, no.
We're all patriotic. We're born and bred here. If it's for that reason and we're proud of our country, that's absolutely fine. But if there's any other intent behind there that it's having negative connotations, then obviously...
And which do you think it is?
I think it's the letter.
The contested symbolism of these flags goes back decades. Their re-emergence coincides with a wave of anti-immigration protests over the course of a heated summer. And if this is about unity for some, for others, it translates to unease.
All right. So they're calling the flags racist, and this is a professor. I believe he teaches at Birmingham University, and I don't remember his name, but he's been at the forefront of pushing back against this movement of raising the flags, brandishing the flags, and he calls it racist as well. Take a listen.
Well, I think this is the problem. It's not that the far right have co-opted the flag. It's the fact that we don't seem to understand.
Professor of Black Studies at Birmingham University, professor of Black Studies.
What this country is and the history of these symbols. So both of these flags which you've displayed here, those are the flags which flew on ships which enslaved my ancestors. Those are the flags which the British Army marched into places like India, Pakistan, Bengal, Africa, and colonized 25% of the world. The reason the far right picks up these flags and has consistently, since the 60s, 70s, since my parents' generation have been in this country, is because these flags represent the racism which they are putting out into the world.
So the reason that the far right picks up these flags and they're brandishing these flags, and they call it anyone who brandishes these flags and put up these flags that represent England. It represents their nation. It represents their culture, that they want people to be ashamed of their culture. They want people to be ashamed of their history. And so if you don't like the flag, what are you doing there in England? I don't understand this, that these people come in and then they want to change England, that they want to make people feel ashamed of English history, of English culture. And again, this is not only happening in Europe, this is happening here in the United States, as I'm going to show you.
25% of the world. The reason the far right picks up these flags and has consistently, since the 60s, 70s, since my parents' generation have been in this country, is because these flags represent the racism which they are putting out into the world. And I would just point out, this campaign of putting these flags up, this is not some benign, let's just be patriotic. Go and search, Operation Raise the Colours, and you'll find the same far right, Little England, this nonsense spewing about all the migrant hotels. It's all this. That's what that's about.
So far right,
putting up this flag to celebrate Britain.
Far right and racist is what he says. And again, he's obviously a liberal, and this is a huge problem. It's mostly the liberal women and feminine men like this guy that are calling these flags racist and this movement racist. And again, it's happening here in the United States. This is not something that's unique to the UK and unique to Europe. This is happening here in the United States. The only difference in the United States is that we're pushing back against it. This is a British woman, and she made this TikTok a post where she's talking about because they're not only putting up the flags, again, like I told you, Donald Trump has inspired all of this. Donald Trump is an icon that the people in Europe are looking to, and they're saying that if Donald Trump can do that in the United States, we want that here in the in England. We want that here in Germany. We want that here in France. We want to deport all the illegal immigrants. We want to protect our borders, and they've been using the phrase "Make Britain British Again," and that's a play on Donald Trump's "Make America Great Again." So you see that this is coming from people being inspired by what is happening here in the United States, and they're being inspired by that in England. So this is a liberal woman, again, loudmouth, just like the ones we have here in the United States. And what she says here is very familiar to me because I've heard many here in the United States, many liberal women here in the United States saying this exact same thing.
So in order of seeing English flags everywhere, the Union Jack, make Britain Britain again, that I've seen all over Facebook. I'm going to say something to you. Britain has never been British. Britain has always been based on other cultures.
Britain has never been British. Britain is based on other cultures. What is this lunatic talking about? You don't know your own history, lady? What are you talking about? Britain has never been Britain.
Britain has never been British. Britain has always been based on other cultures, countries, influence of immigrants. But now you've got absolutely everything that you can get from immigrants. You've robbed off them. You've took absolutely everything that they have. You want to send them back. And that's what Britain's about, robbing off other cultures. Immigrants put our kids in danger. No, they don't. White British people just do the exact same things that immigrants do, but it's just never in the media. You want to know?
They say the same thing here in the United States. Say the same thing here in the United States, that if you say something about an illegal immigrant murdering someone or raping someone, they'll tell you, well, white Americans do the same. White Americans are as much a problem as the immigrants. So the same narrative, it's like they've all been trained by the same ideology, the same mentality, the same thing that's going on here in the United States in the liberal schools that are indoctrinating these people like this woman is happening here in the United States. What she is saying is very reminiscent.
Why it's never in the media? Because the media knows what it's doing. It doesn't want to make the hero look bad. I'm not saying all immigrants are good people, but not all white British people are good people either, and this is what people need to get in their head. Why aren't people getting this vocal when all British people go and live in Benidorm and retire? Yeah, you all shut your mouth then, don't you? Britain has caused so many wars in other people's countries, yeah, just because they've stole from their country. They cause wars for different things. Then immigrants come to this country because their country's in war because of Britain, but now Britain's got absolutely
there is some truth to that part, that Britain, along with the United States, has destabilized many of these places, and a lot of these asylum seekers and immigrants are coming because of the foreign policy of Britain and the United States, and there is some truth to that.
Because they've stole from their country, the cause wars for a different thing. Then immigrants come to this country because their country's in war because of Britain, but now Britain's got absolutely everything that they want. They've destroyed everywhere else. Now they want to send immigrants back. That's how fucked up Britain is. And all you British people say, I'm proud to be British. My kids are proud to be British. You shouldn't be proud to be British.
You shouldn't be proud to be British, is what she says. Like I said, we're dealing with these same loudmouth liberal women, these lonely, bitter, unattractive liberal women. We're dealing with the same scourge of these liberal women here in the United States and femme men. And you shouldn't be proud to be British, is what she says.
Back. That's how fucked up Britain is. And all you British people say, I'm proud to be British. My kids are proud to be British. You shouldn't be proud to be British. If you want to make Britain again, you should make it better than it's ever been before, not worse. And immigrants bring money to this country, which you've all failed to understand. Because I bet you any money now, if all immigrants went back, watch how poor Britain will go. Because
same thing. That's what they're telling us here in the United States. If we get rid of all the immigrants, who's going to do the work? Watch that you're going to experience all of this decline, that we need these immigrants, that these immigrants do the jobs that you're not going to do. These immigrants help the economy. That's what they tell us. This is the exact same thing that's happening here in the United States. The exact same. The only difference is that here in the United States, we have a administration now that is fighting for the people here in the United States, that is securing the border. Again, the border crossings are down to a 40-year low here in the United States. We're deporting people in the United States, but we're dealing with the same liberal pushback and these same loudmouth women here in the United States pushing back against the policy that Donald Trump and his administration are pursuing, the policy that he ran on and was elected to pursue. And again, what's happening here in the United States and the fact that the Trump administration is successful at closing the border and is pursuing this policy of deportation, that is something that many in Europe see and they want. It is inspiring them. It is inspiring them. These are some clips of loudmouth liberal women here in the United States saying the exact same thing about the American flag. About the American flag being racist, about the American flag triggering them. So it's not about the flag. It's not about the flag at all. The fact that in England they're putting up the Union Jack and St. George's Cross. It's not about that. This is about power. This is about control. And you'll see that what's going on in England is not unique to England. It's just different. The way that we're handling here in the United States, and the way we're handling here in the United States is inspiring what's going on in England.
I cannot be the only person that feels this way, but every time I see the American flag, whether it be on somebody's car, like a sticker, or like they're wearing it on a hat or their shirt, or it's like hanging up outside of their house, like I'm just gonna assume you're racist. Because
I'm just going to assume you're racist if I see you brandishing the American flag. Here's another one.
And I see an
pink hair, by the way.
American flag. I immediately look at that I'm like, that person's probably a bigot. That person's probably a homophobe. That person's probably a racist if they're just flying American flags out every.
So if I see the American flag, I assume pink hair, liberal woman, nose ring. I assume that person's a bigot. That person's a racist. The American flag. Okay, we're not talking about the Union Jack and St. George's Cross. We're talking about the American flag that I immediately associate that person with racism. I mean, this is an epidemic, people. Here's another one.
Is that just me, or does anybody else feel this way when you're driving and you see somebody with an American flag on their car or truck, either a sticker of the American flag or they're flying the American flag?
They're racist.
Or when you drive past somebody's home and they're flying the American flag outside, does it make you look at the driver of the vehicle a different way now, or look at the homeowner a different way now when you see this? I do. It makes me feel a certain type of way now.
Yeah, because you're an idiot. You're an idiot. But I just want to show you that this is going on here in the United States as well. This is not something unique to the UK. Here's another one.
The American flag is racist. That's not a hot take. That's just something I can substantiate by history. If I walk by a house, just walking down the street, walking my dogs, and you have an American flag hanging out of your window or on your porch, it gives MAGA. It gives white supremacists. I don't know.
It gives MAGA. It gives white supremacists. The American flag is racist. So Donald Trump is a major force in what he represents, what his administration represents, and what is not only driving the policy and the reaction to the policy here in the United States, but what's going on in England. And again, England the United Kingdom is a tinderbox right now because of this issue. It is on the verge of civil war, as you heard in the clips that we started this segment with, that this is a huge problem. But it's not only in the UK and England. This is happening in Germany. This is happening in France. This is happening in the Netherlands. This is happening all over Europe because of this issue of illegal immigration. And even the Brexit referendum that happened in 2016, it was influenced and encouraged, I believe, by the run of Donald Trump and the things that Donald Trump was talking about in that 2016 election. He made illegal immigration a centerpiece of his campaign back in 2016. And when he ran in 2024, it was again a centerpiece because it was a major problem. When Biden came in 2020, the very first thing that he did was get rid of all of the immigration policies that Donald Trump had put in place in his first administration. So Donald Trump comes in 2016, he wins the election, and he starts his administration in January of 2017, and he starts implementing policies to crack down on illegal immigration. He implements the Remain in Mexico policy. He ends catch and release, all these things. And then when Biden comes in 2021, he gets rid of Remain in Mexico. He reinstates catch and release. All of the policies that Donald Trump put in place in his first administration, Biden gets rid of. Okay, so why is Biden getting rid of all these things? And he allows all this illegal immigration, to take place in his first 3 years. And then as he's running for re-election in his last year, he finally cracks down on the border because he knows that it's a major issue that voters are upset with, that he needs to crack down on it so he can try to get reelected or get Kamala Harris elected. But even in the 2016 referendum for Brexit, and Brexit was the movement to exit Britain from the European Union. The Brits said, we don't want to be part of the European Union anymore because the European Union is driving most of this. And I know I'm not going to be able to get to it, but I want to make the case and show you, maybe we'll have to pick this up on Monday, but make the case and show you how the European Union, along with the Council of Europe, is driving all of this. They're driving all of this in Europe. And they were doing that, and the same forces are doing that here in the United States. If you went down to the Darien Gap, where you had all these NGOs facilitating all these migrants that were coming through the Darien Gap and making the trip all the way up through Central America and through Mexico and flooding our border under the Biden administration, you see that many of these NGOs were NGOs from Europe. A lot of them were from Europe. And it was really interesting in the 2016 referendum for Brexit that Barack Obama, he goes over to England and he campaigns for them to stay. He campaigns for the stay campaign. And then they just rejected him and they did the Brexit because they understood that the European Union was driving all of this, that the European Union was hurting Britain. So this is what's going on now is an extension of the Brexit battle that took place back then. But Donald Trump and who Trump sold himself as, the campaign that he decided to run in 2016 and again in 2024, making illegal immigration centerpieces of his campaign, that is inspiring what is going on in Europe. It's inspiring. And when they see the success that he's having now, bringing illegal immigration to a 40-year low here in the United States, deporting illegal immigrants, they're inspired by that. They want that. They're inspired. They were inspired by Donald Trump and his run for presidency in 2016 when they did the Brexit movement. Now, Piers Morgan, who is a British citizen, he had Tom Holman on his show yesterday, and they get into the Trump administration's policy and what Donald Trump is doing in right now in his second administration to crack down on illegal immigration. And I want you to listen to a little bit of this conversation.
But I go through a big, rigorous process to get a visa. I've got a home in LA. I've worked in America on and off for 20 years. But it's a rigorous process to go through all the form filling, as you know. So I understand why people who go through that process to become citizens and so on, they feel aggrieved that people who just march in over a border, and we have the same issue in the UK, as you know, with the small boats and so on. But here's my sort of overview, and let me just express what I think, and then give me your reaction to it. From most Americans I've talked to, whether it be East Coast or Middle America, whatever.
Now think about the circles. Think about the circles that Piers Morgan runs in. He says, most Americans that I talk to. Who do you think the Americans are that he talks to in near his home in Beverly Hills? I have a house in Beverly Hills. So most of the Americans you talk to are your neighbors there in Beverly Hills. What do you expect them to say?
Whether it be East Coast or Middle America, whatever.
Middle America. How many times have you been to Middle America, Piers? What are you talking about?
Express what I think, and then give me your reaction to it. From most Americans I've talked to, whether it be East Coast or Middle America, whatever, there's almost unanimous sense of a huge victory by you and your team on the southern border. That you've managed to virtually close that border.
Yeah, it's not difficult. It's not difficult to do what Trump has done in his first 6-7 months in office if you have the will to do it. You just have to have the will to do it.
Unanimous sense of a huge victory by you and your team on the southern border. That you've managed to virtually close that border in a dramatically short period of time. And that if anything, you're not getting enough credit for that because of all the noise around some of the other initiatives. I think you deserve huge credit for that. I'm very happy to give you that. Most Americans I've spoken to say if somebody's in the country illegally, in other words, they're an undocumented person in the US, and they commit a crime, then they should be deported.
Doesn't matter if they commit a crime or not. They committed a crime already.
Where there is a disagreement with your strategy,
there's no disagreement.
Supported by the polling I've seen.
What polling, Piers? He says this is supported by the polling I've seen. What are you talking about? The best poll of this is the election last year. Donald Trump won and Kamala Harris lost. Donald Trump won the popular vote. He won all 7 swing states, and he ran on a platform of mass deportations, on protecting the border. And he's talking about some polling that he's seen. There's no polling that showed that Americans don't support what Donald Trump is doing. Maybe liberals, maybe Democrats don't support what he's doing, but the people who voted for him, to win the popular vote in all 7 swing states, they support exactly what Donald Trump and Tom Holman are doing.
In other words, there seems to be almost unanimous agreement. Where there is a disagreement with your strategy, and this seems to be supported by the polling I've seen, around 2/3 agree with what I'm about to say here.
It's ridiculous.
Or certainly the way I'm heading in my thought process. Where they feel uncomfortable is with, for argument's sake, somebody who came in as an undocumented person 10 years ago. They built a life in the United States. They've got a job. They're working at Home Depot. They've got a couple of kids who've been born in America. They pay taxes. They contribute to society. They don't commit crimes.
They're illegal.
They're decent people.
They're illegal.
A better life. They just happen to be undocumented. When they see ICE employees running into Home Depot to see somebody like that or the equivalent, that is where a line seems to be crossed for many Americans. Do you understand why people feel differently about that scenario to somebody who's there illegally who then commits a crime that's unconnected to their immigration status?
Well, look, I can tell you, I started with Border Patrol in 1984, and I can tell you, and it's still this way today. Immigration enforcement has always been controversial. It's always been emotional. I get it, right? But people need to understand what the people who feel that way, many of them don't know the facts. Many of them don't have the data.
Many of them voted for Kamala Harris. Many of them are liberals. Yes, legal immigration has been highly controversial for liberals, for Democrats. I mean, not always. I mean, there was a time when I can show you so many clips of Bill Clinton and other Democrats that were you would have called Bill Clinton a right-winger if I showed you the clip of Joe Biden back in the day, of Bernie Sanders saying that illegal immigration hurts American workers. But they've all switched now, and now they have a different tune. But I can show you clips from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, of all of these Democrats, all of these liberals, Bill Clinton, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, that had a hard line on illegal immigration. And now all of a sudden they flipped. So it's controversial all of a sudden.
Who feel that way, many of them don't know the facts. Many of them don't have the data because the media is skewing the data every day. Every day I get up on the way to work, I look at 20 pages of data from the previous 24 hours. And the media they want to spin away from the truth. For instance, they say that most of the people ICE arrested are not criminals. False. I look at the numbers this morning. 70% of everybody ICE arrests is a criminal. Who are the other 30%? Many of them are national security threats with terrorist ties. Most of them don't have criminal histories because their whole goal is to lay low until they do the dirty deed, right? So we've arrested thousands of Trend-Iowa, thousands of MS-13, thousands of national security threats that simply don't have criminal histories. Who are the other remaining 30%? Many of them are fugitives. These are people who had due process at great taxpayer expense. We put them in front of the judge. They lost their case. They were ordered to leave. But they didn't leave. They became a fugitive. So a lot of them are the 30%. So, if the media would educate the American people on the facts, President Trump promised to prioritize public safety threats as national security threats, and the data proves that's exactly what we're doing. Now, let's look at the non-criminal, non-national security threats, non-fugitives. The message we can't not send the entire world is you can cross the border legally. It's a crime. Don't worry about it. Go see an immigration judge or don't go see an immigration judge and just skip out, get an order removal. Don't worry about it. No one's looking for you. As long as you don't commit another crime beyond illegal entry, you're good to go. If that's the message we send to the whole world, you're never going to fix this problem.
Absolutely.
Well, what about a different message?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let me tweak your message, which is I don't disagree that as a deterrent, that message is effective. However, going back to my example, it's a generic example. I'm not thinking of a specific person. But you must accept there will be people in that 30% who are of the category that I described.
They're illegal.
Been in the country a number of years, who've had children whilst they've been in America.
They're illegal, Pierce.
Citizens, have tried to build a better life for their families. It's that category of person that people are uneasy about. Do you accept that there are a number of people in that 30% who fit that kind of bill? And do you feel uncomfortable about those people being thrown out of the country or not?
No. They're in the country illegally, and that's not okay. They entered the country illegally, which is a crime. And if we send the message to the whole world, enter the country illegally, it's a crime, don't worry about it. Just don't commit another crime, and you're good to go. Then you're never going to solve the illegal immigration crisis. And here's what people need to understand. Illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. I've done this for 40 years. The criminal cartels rape women that make that journey. They sexually abuse children that make that journey. I found more dead children, talked to more women. I talked to girls as young as 9 that were raped multiple times by the member of the cartel. When you get on your knees, you look, and I have a 9-year-old who was raped by a member of the cartel simply as demand before they pass over the border. It turns your stomach. It changes who you are. And the message we cannot send is, as long as you don't commit a crime, come on in, because more people die, more women get raped. And what happened in the last administration, because they sent that message, because Secretary Mayorkas says ICE can only arrest an illegal alien if they're convicted of serious crime. What happened? 10.5 million illegal aliens come to the country. What happens with that? What people call illegal immigration. It overwhelmed the Border Patrol, where 70% of agents are off the line. What happened? Record number of women and children were sex trafficked across the border. A record number of fentanyl come across the border, killed 250,000 Americans. A record number of known suspected terrorists, over 400 that we know of, came across the border. In the previous 4 years under Trump, we had 12. Now they got 400. The cartels making a record amount of money, sex trafficking women and children, alien smuggling, and moving dope across the border.
So, I mean, Tom Homan is making a great case here. He is making a irrefutable case here to Piers Morgan and his liberal mindset. And I want you to notice what Piers Morgan hits him with next. He comes at him with some spiritual manipulation, which is completely out of line here, what Piers Morgan does next.
That's what happens when you say just innocent illegal immigration. No, we got to secure the border. We got to send a message. It's not okay to enter this country illegally when there's millions of people standing in line. The message we can't send is cross the border illegally, hide out long enough, go have a U.S. citizen child. Now you're immune from the laws? Is that the message we want to send?
Irrefutable what Tom Homan is saying here.
You're never going to solve the crisis. People will keep coming to the country. First thing to do is have a U.S. citizen child. Now they feel they're immune from our laws. That's the message we can't send, or you're never going to end the terrible things that I've experienced 40 years on that border. Now, what I think needs to happen is if people don't like what ICE is doing, then protest Congress. Don't protest ICE. ICE is enforcing laws on the books. They're enforcing laws and doing what they took an oath to do, and that Congress appropriates some funding to do. We're enforcing law. Name another federal law enforcement agency where we ask them not to enforce the law. Do we ask the FBI not to enforce the law? Do we ask DEA, ATF? No. It's ICE. Again, emotional, controversial, but we're enforcing laws enacted by Congress, and that makes this country safe again. It makes that border secure. And when we secure the border, here's what you need to understand. Here's why it's so important to send that message of consequence, because we have the most secure border in the history of this nation right now. Part of that is the consequences that they're seeing every day with thousands, 1,000 teams of deterrent out there every day. We're showing there's consequences for entering this country legally. You are going to go home. And when we send that message, less people make that journey, which means less women get raped, less children die, less migrants died. Under Joe Biden, we had over 4,000 migrants died making that journey. Historic record. We had a historic record of migrants dying. We had a historic number of Americans dying from fentanyl overdoses. A secure border matters, and the part of that secure border is consequences. You cannot want to be a part of the greatest nation on earth and disrespect our laws in doing it. Not when you got millions of people standing in line doing it the right way.
Absolutely.
You had a bit of a run-in with the late Pope.
So he brings up the Pope. So he can't refute anything that Tom Homan says, because Tom Homan lays out a perfect argument for the policy that he and the Trump administration are pursuing. This guy, this liberal mindset of Piers Morgan can't refute it, so he resorts to spiritual manipulation. He knows Tom Homan is a Catholic, so he brings up the Pope and Pope Francis and Pope Leo's objection to the policy of Trump and of cracking down on illegal immigration. So he tries to manipulate him by using spiritual manipulation, because the argument that Tom Homan just laid out was so it was so irrefutable. And this is just completely out of line what Piers Morgan does here.
Stand in line doing it the right way.
You had a bit of a run-in with the late Pope, the last Pope Francis. You're a Catholic like me. He was very critical of the immigration policy.
Who cares?
You took him on and pointed out he has a big wall at the Vatican and so on.
He does.
This is an argument Donald Trump has used before. There is word via some of his relatives that Pope Leo, the first American Pope, also has a lot of misgivings about the execution of some of the immigration policies. What's your message to Pope Leo, given he is an American Pope?
Who cares?
About his concerns about this?
Wear my shoes for 40 years, see the things I've seen. Again, talking to little girls whose lives were destroyed because they were, these animals, just took everything innocent and pure from her. Recover the dead bodies I recovered. Go stand in the back of a tractor trailer with 19 illegal aliens like I did, who suffocated and baked to death, including a 5-year-old little boy who begged his father not to let him die. Wear my shoes for 40 years and tell me we shouldn't have border security. Tell me we shouldn't enforce immigration law. Again, part of interior enforcement is sending a message to the world that there's a right way and wrong way to come to this country. That alone saves lives. President Trump has illegal crossings right now down 96%.
Yeah, that's what they want in England.
There's been nonpartisan groups out there that say that 31% of women that make that journey through the cartels admitted to being raped. So if 31% of women admitted to being raped, how many actually got raped? So what he needs to understand.
Now go tell Pope Leo that.
When President Trump has illegal immigration down 96%, again, how many women aren't being raped? How many children aren't dying? How many pounds of fentanyl?
Now go tell Pope Leo that.
Country? How many pounds of, how many non-suspect terrorists aren't getting in the country? How many gang members aren't getting in the country? It's we have the right to secure the border and make this America safe again. So I would, I'm again lifelong Catholic. I wish the Pope would spend more time fixing the Catholic Church, which has got a lot of problems. And that's my personal opinion. I'm not talking as a border.
I think the Pope should spend more time fixing the Catholic Church. Just has a lot of problems. So Piers Morgan can't refute anything that Tom Homan is saying. So he appeals to him as a Catholic and tries to bring up the Pope. And who cares what the Pope says? Who cares? I knew I wasn't going to be able to get to everything. And I have so much that I wanted to say. So much more that I wanted to say. So we'll probably pick this back up on Monday so I can get to everything. But this is a huge problem, not only here in the United States, but also in Europe. And what I'm going to get into on Monday when we pick this back up is to show you that there's something more pernicious going on. There's something that is more, there's a lot more to this. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.